let's bring the star of the show, Mr. Tom Nom Nom. And before I bring this on, let's go over here. Thank you for the follow. Tom, my friend, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Not too bad, thank you.
I love interviewing streamers because they know how to deal with this thing. You have a nice mic, good internet, you have your own setup, which is awesome. I don't have to worry about anything. How's it going, my friend? How are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's Sunday, which is nice. Spend the day at home.
Just hanging out?
Kids. Yeah, it was nice.
Get any hacking done?
No, not today, unfortunately.
Well, I can't say I don't blame you. It's a Sunday. I don't expect you to work. I try not to work on weekends either, but sometimes, a hacker's gonna hack.
Yeah, definitely.
Before I get to the interview, I've always wondered this. Do you watch Family Guy?
Haven't done for quite a long time.
Why did you call your tool Meg?
So I think the whole "shut up, Meg" thing came into it at some point, maybe. But I can't remember whether I thought of the name first or whether it was kind of like retroactively added or not. Genuinely, I can't remember.
Just a name.
So I might be misremembering. I think the "shut up, Meg" part of it was kind of, there was a bunch of tools that were just really, really noisy on the output. And I was like, just shut up. So like maybe that was part of it, or maybe I'm just like pretending on a subconscious level that I actually had a smart reason for it. Definitely not my best named tool. I think that credit goes to Unfurl, which is, it's a pun and everything. It's great.
What made you come up with Meg? It was just because the tools that you were using weren't good, or was it like you had a challenge you wanted to, you had some challenge or a goal in your mind that you wanted to accomplish, and then you're like, I'm just gonna write my own tool?
Yeah, so like I'd not been doing Bug Bounty that long, and I'd been looking at like a lot of the programs, and a lot of them were like, no automated scanners, please. And I was looking at like Dirbuster and that sort of thing, and a lot of them were like, they'd hammer sites with hundreds of requests a second, and at work at the time we had like actually really good monitoring and instrumentation and observational stuff for traffic levels. So if someone ran like Dirbuster against one of our sites, we'd see a big spike in the graph, and it would be investigated by our support teams pretty quickly. And like I didn't want to do that sort of thing, but I did want to get bugs and bad. So I thought, well, there's a lot of bug bounty programs. I'm gonna go and look for, instead of looking for lots of things in one place, I'm gonna look for like one thing in lots of places, and hopefully I'm gonna avoid like hitting rate limits, tripping intrusion detection systems, making spikes on people's graphs generally. Was the kind of thing
you're going after patterns, pretty much.
After what, sorry?
You're going after some patterns. Like you're saying you want to find one thing across multiple hosts instead of looking for multiple things.
So, like just like you've been doing on your stream today, like I would go, I'm going to look for PHP info files everywhere, right? On like every host that I know about.
What made you want to do it in Go? Like I see a lot of hackers use Python. Donut likes Rust. I don't know why. Yeah. He likes Rust. What made you do Go? I mean, it's very fast, but outside of that.
So, like, this might sound silly, but the number one reason is, like, I know Go. Using a language that you already know is a big advantage when it comes to writing a tool. I don't know Python particularly well. I can kind of get by. I looked at Rust, and I'm not as smart as Donut, so I kind of struggled with that a lot.
I don't think I want to mess with Rust either, dude. Doesn't look fun.
Like from what I can tell, Rust is a really cool language with some cool features, but I kind of come from a background of writing languages like PHP that are memory managed, so I never had to deal with like managing my own memory.
Yeah.
So, and Go is garbage collected too, which made it really attractive to me. So with Rust, and I'm sure Donut will correct me on this if I got it wrong, but like you have to like syntactically jump through a bunch of hoops to deal with the fact that it wants to be memory safe but isn't garbage collected. And like if you come from like C++ or something where you have to just deal with managing your own memory yourself, that's probably really refreshing.
Yeah.
But because I never had to deal with any of that stuff, it just made my life harder for what seemed like no reason. Or yeah, you know, it's all stuff with like borrowing and stuff I didn't really understand. So
Yeah.
that felt like a bit of a too high of a barrier to entry for me.
So how long have you been hacking for, Tom?
Uh, it depends on how you define hacking.
All right.
In like sort of the traditional sense of just like messing with computers and seeing what they do. Ever since we first got access to I first got access to a computer when I was a kid, which would have been about maybe 93. So, and that was just, you know, messing around with settings and changing the files and things and seeing what happened. And I got a little bit into doing like the online hacking challenges and stuff in the late 90s, early 2000s. And like not really any more than that until maybe 3 years ago. I think it's coming up on 3 years next month since I signed up for HackerOne.
Wow.
And like
Cool.
actually started going like hard on it.
Do you only hack on HackerOne?
Yeah, for the most part. So like I signed up for BugCrowd at some point and submitted a couple of reports. And apparently I hit the one non-managed program. So they didn't get touched for like a year or something. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to submit anymore if that's what my experience is going to be like. But I'm told I was incredibly unlucky.
I think so too. I mean, I think it just happens to any platform, honestly. That's a topic for another time. But you're more than likely get unlucky. You hit the one program that probably didn't have the good SLAs. But yeah, I wanted to see like a lot of like you come from a. I don't want to say you come from a developer background, but you come from a strong programming background. You know Go. You know Bash very well from what I've seen. But do you think that's a requirement for becoming a bug bounty hunter?
I mean, it's definitely not a requirement, not a hard requirement at least, because like take Mark Litchfield, for example. You know, he's quite open about the fact that he can't code, in his words. Personally, I think that means he probably hasn't really tried. I bet he could do it if he really wanted to. So it's definitely not a requirement. I think it's really useful, in particular, if you have ideas that you want to execute on. If you can't code, that's really quite hard. And like you don't have to be great or anything like that, but like if you can sort of get by in like Bash or Python or something like that, that can be incredibly useful because you can try original ideas then, right? So if you take research like the kind of crazy research that like James Kettle or AlbinoWax does at Portswigger, like you couldn't do that if you couldn't code. Not really. So like for Turbo Intruder, he wrote his own HTTP stack. And he found some really cool stuff with it. And, you know, that exists now and you can use it without being able to code. But you could never have come up with that stuff if you couldn't code, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not good at coding. I have a CS degree.
I don't.
I had to get one from my background. You know, family thinks degrees are pretty important. I don't use my degree. I barely understood the things that they try to teach me outside of the things that I really cared about that related to hacking, to be honest. But I agree. Like Mark is a very good example of it. Like he's open about it. But you're absolutely right. Like you can't find complex bugs. Like people always say, how do I find RCE? Do I need to be a programmer to do that? Kind of. Like you need to understand the basics, right? Like you need to have the mentality of this is probably how this app is running this thing, and this is how I should probably abuse it, right? And I think that's where the programming background could also help.
Yeah, definitely. Like at least being able to read and understand the code is going to be such a big leg up. Even if you like just learn to read JavaScript, that'll help you find DOM-XSS, right? Or it'll help you understand stuff like code that's calling APIs better, so you can see like what parameters you're going to have to send to this API endpoint that you can see it sending to, and that kind of thing. Which is like, you know, if you're proxying stuff with Burp Suite and you've got an actual request, that's fine. You can just send it to repeater. But if it's a request that's not yet been sent and you haven't intercepted it, it's really useful to be able to read that code and figure out what it should do.
Yeah, absolutely. On the topic of like studying in schools, do you believe in certificates? Do you have any certificates?
I think TLS certificates are very important. But otherwise, I'm not. So I don't have any. Oh, that's not true. I have a certificate from the British Computing Society in enterprise and solutions architecture, which has nothing to do with security at all. So that's the one that I've got. And for some people, I think at a minimum, they can be a really good way to sort of force yourself to cover more ground in terms of knowledge and learn some things you otherwise wouldn't. But I find it quite tedious personally. And I think that's a personal learning style thing rather than a like certificates are good or bad thing. And some jobs as well are more likely to hire you if you've got a certificate, I think. Like some will say, you know, we want you to have an OSCP or whatever, which is fine. But I think the important part of the certificates is the learning, not the actual certificate.
Yeah. What did you take on OSCP? Would you do it?
Probably not. Like I might be tempted to like do some labs or something around it, I guess. But you know, I have no real desire to be able to say, oh, I've got my OSCP. It just doesn't interest me particularly. Yeah, like if an employer said,
sorry, go ahead.
Like if an employer said we want you to do one, I would say okay, fine, and I might even enjoy it. But yeah, as for whether it's important to have one as a bug hunter, like I think it could definitely help, especially if you like haven't got any experience, like to get yourself started. Like it might be a good way to do it, but I haven't done it, so I can't really, say for sure.
That's fair. Yeah, I ask everybody just because like I've never done OSCP. I kind of want to just so I can learn a little bit. I think it's very. At the end of the day, you can learn the stuff on your own. It's just more structured. But I hear a lot of people say it helps with some exploitation. It gives you some ideas that's better. But I've never done it. That's why I keep asking people. I'm pretty much fishing to see if I want to do it or not.
All right. Okay.
Do you do any CTFs?
Yeah, sometimes. I've done a couple of like the Hacker 101 ones when it first came out and really enjoyed them. There's been loads added since then.
Yep.
I've done a couple of Z-Shono or Z-Shono, depending on whether you're from the UK or not. I've done some of the ones on bug bounty notes. And actually, I didn't really solve them. I found alternative solutions, which caused him to send me a T-shirt saying that I hacked him. So that was nice. But I've done things like prompt.ml as well. I really enjoyed for like upping my DOM-XSS game. I found that quite useful. Learned a whole bunch of tricks on that. But like I'm not like a big CTF player or anything like that.
I think I saw you were. I went to do the SSRF one that Sean dropped. That Sean dropped 2 weeks ago. I think you were like. I went there like 4 hours later after he dropped it. When I woke up, your name was up there. I was like, okay, Tom's done this. I gotta do it now.
Like, yeah, I think that was one that I got the wrong solution to. One he wasn't expecting.
Nice.
And then
that's cool.
Afterwards, I found the correct solution, so I don't feel too bad.
That's awesome. Let's talk about Recon. What is Recon to you?
Oh, for me, Recon is information gathering. So, like, it's not just subdomain enumeration or just directory brute forcing or whatever. Like some of the time for me, it's like looking at the careers website of a target and going like, what are they hiring for? Like what technologies are they using internally? And you can glean a remarkable amount of information out of that stuff, because that's going to influence things like what word lists I use. For example, like if I know they're using a fully Linux stack, then there's no point in like searching for ASPX files, for example. Like that's just a waste of time. I like just getting to know the target generally in terms of how they do things. You know, have they got like a monolithic architecture, or have they got like a microservices architecture? Because that sort of thing's going to affect how you approach the rest of your reconnaissance, but how you approach attacking them as well. And also, like whether you're going to try the same thing in lots of places. So if they're running like a monolith for the whole site, you sort of have to go, well, there's not much point trying like these path traversal things in all these different places. But if it's a microservices thing, you go, well, like one of these might have got it wrong. So it becomes slightly more worth it to do things in that sort of situation. But yeah, like it's something I've quoted in a couple of talks I've done in the past is like, you know, knowledge is power, said by some old dude. And for me, it doesn't really matter what that information is, whether it's URLs, coming out of Wayback URLs, or subdomains, or open ports, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Do you have a routine for your recon? Like, do you have a structure? Like, oops, sorry. Do you do like, you know, subdomain brute forcing? Then you do the usual stuff, like you do the brute forcing or gather all your subdomains, directory brute force after that, screenshots, Wayback URLs, dump JavaScript files. Like, do you have a particular routine that you follow every time you do recon, or is it just depending on the target? And let's assume it's a big target like Yahoo, for example.
Okay, so like I have some kind of routine. It's not super rigid, like, and deliberately so. Like I know some people have got like these crazy automated setups, and I've thought about making one and kind of avoided it. There's an expression I'm going to steal from someone I was talking to recently, which is like, for our automation, we want to build Iron Man, not Ultron. I want tools that make me able to do things I want to do quickly and easily, and like in a superhuman strength or speed sort of a way. Like I don't want complete automation, because I'm going to miss stuff. Like, and every target's a little bit different. So generally speaking, I'll go like subdomain enumeration first. I'll do some Google docking. I'll do some GitHub docking. I'll feed domains I've found into Wayback URLs. Look at more recently been looking at like employee repositories, just looking for information leaks quite a lot. Had some success with that a couple of live events ago, which was really nice. And like you find some really interesting URLs and domains and things in there as well. Even if you don't find anything like directly sensitive, sometimes you're finding stuff that other people aren't finding. And I think like increasingly as bug bounties become more popular and there's more people looking, like, it's more important to be looking in places that other people aren't. So yeah, a bit of Google docking, and I've got some tools I've been working on to sort of help me with that in the sort of Iron Man, not Ultron sort of a way. What else? Yeah, and like from that point, it's kind of iterative. So one of the key things I tend to be looking for when I'm doing my initial recon is what I've taken to calling internal indicators. So like the domain for their intranet, for example, or just like some internal host name or keyword or something like that I can search for on Google and on GitHub. And if I get a result that mentions that thing, it's probably interesting. So like the example I've given a few times for this is if you're looking at Uber, like uberinternal.com is all of their internal structures on there. So if I find like a GitHub repo or something mentioning uberinternal.com, it either belongs to Random Robbie or it like pretty much every time. Or like maybe this belongs to like an Uber employee, so I should go and look at their other repos as well. And I've got some tooling to help me with that as well.
It's funny you mentioned random Robbie. I know exactly what you're talking about too. I look at stuff and I go, oh shit, like something came back. And I look at the replay, I'm like, God damn it, random Robbie again. Like, what hasn't this guy scanned, dude?
He scans a lot of things.
He's a monster. I gotta reach out to him and just say, bring him out here and talk to him about his scanning methods. Because he scans a ton of stuff on a regular basis. He said, I don't want to disclose the exact thing, but he said he found a bug on a big company because he was just looking for this one thing across the entire internet and ran into it. And I'm just like, dude, you're just scanning the entire world? Like, what's going on here? That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think he ever sleeps. I think I sent him a Twitter DM a while ago at like 2 a.m. and like he responded straight away.
He's always awake hacking.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, let's do how do you balance hacking and actually like learning and staying ahead of the curve and like always keeping updated? What challenges you to do that?
So I kind of learn on the job, as it were, a lot of the time. It's pretty rare for me to sort of sit down and go, I am going to learn something. Mm-hmm. It's usually I want to do something and I'm going to learn the things I need. And I'll occasionally get distracted and go down a bit of a rabbit hole and read around a subject a bit more than I was planning to. But for the most part, it really is a sort of like I'm trying to write a tool, or I'm trying to exploit something, or like usually one of those two things for me. And I'll go, right, I'm going to Google for it, read the docs around the bit I need to know about. And sometimes I hit things where I need some extra background knowledge before I can understand. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Understand the documentation I'm reading. So I'll go and read about that as well. But it's really sort of a just-in-time thing for me because I found that I don't really retain stuff if I'm not using it straight away. And the one way to really guarantee I'm using it straight away is to only look up the stuff that I need right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's hard to just say, I'm going to sit down and learn like XXC today. How are you going to learn that without actually looking for it, right? That's a good way to put it. I think it's the hands-on experience is, I think, best way to do it. And I think having the challenge of, hey, I want to exploit something, I'm going to go learn it, or I want to write a tool, for example. Like one of the tools that I wrote was just, I stuck that Recon when I first started. And I was just like, I'm going to write a tool that does it for me and not worry about doing Recon and automate it. And I think that was the best thing I ever did. Challenging myself to write something in order to learn it. Cool. How do you stay motivated with hacking?
Oh, that is a really tough one.
Here, let me help you with that. Do you by motivation, I mean like, how do you want to keep on going to hack again, even though if you're not finding stuff? Or what keeps driving you to want to hack more and more? Do you set up goals? Do you have challenges that you want to challenge yourself to do? Like, how do you keep motivated?
So the honest answer for that is, if I'm not feeling it, I don't do it. And I'm lucky. I'm not relying on bounties to live. I have a full-time job that pays well and looks after my family. So if I don't want to hack, I just don't. I do it when I feel like it. And if I'm feeling frustrated, then I stop, which, I appreciate that's not amazing advice for someone who's like trying to do this stuff full time. But that's the reality for me. But it didn't used to be that way. I used to be really hard on myself where I was like, oh no, I have to do this. And then I realized, like, actually, no, I don't have to do this. Like, if I'm not having fun, then I should just stop and I should go and play Forza Horizon or something like that instead. I think that was part of. I've been quite public about like some burning out back into last year and becoming depressed and all that sort of thing. And I think part of that was I was pushing myself too hard. Like I was finding myself going, oh no, I really should be like putting a load of hours into this stuff. like and feeling pressure to be like on top of all of my GitHub issues, which if you have open GitHub issues or pull requests on my project, I'm sorry, but that's not my job. I do it for fun, and if I don't feel up to responding to stuff, then I'm not going to do it. And it's taken quite a while to really convince myself that that's okay.
It's hard. It's hard to know people want your help and you want to help people, but there's so many. You have the same 24 hours that everybody else has, right? Like I get asked questions like, "Why don't you help us? Why don't you reply to this DM?" Like I get that a load of times. Like I have the same 24 hours as you do. I have the 7 days of the week that you do. So I definitely understand that. But do you deal with a lot of imposter syndrome?
Yeah, definitely. So certainly for my very first event, I really, really did.
That's rough.
Yeah, like my first event was 702 in Vegas in 2017, and I was like, I didn't know anybody, so I was kind of almost scared to tell people the kinds of things I was looking for because I thought, they would laugh at the fact that I was like looking for .make success or whatever. I don't know why, but I was like, these people will be looking for like real hacker stuff, and I don't know what I'm doing because I've never even worked in security. I've just been software engineering and operations, and that's it. But like even still now, I kind of get to an event and see all the people smiling and high-fiving about the bugs that they found, and I'm like, oh man, I haven't found anything yet. I must be terrible at this. But really, I have to consciously force myself to go, oh no, like that's the highlight reels, right? It's like it's a confirmation bias thing. People who haven't found anything aren't usually standing up and going, hey, I haven't found anything.
Yeah.
But there's usually those people are everywhere, and the only people you're going to notice are the people who have. And like, there's an expression that I keep going back to, which is, don't compare your life to other people's highlight reels.
Someone just said that in the chat, and I was just like literally saying 100% yes. Stop comparing your life to other people's good times, quote unquote. No one's like you said. No one's saying, "Hey, look, I didn't find any bugs for 3 months." No one's gonna do that. No one's gonna. Everyone just wants to celebrate. It's a social media lifestyle, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You talked about, you have a real. So you have a real job that covers you and family. You don't do bug bounties full time. So that brings up the question. You have a family. You said you have kids. You travel for hacking events. You do bug bounties. You have your day job. And on top of it all, you're a streamer. Life-work balance. How do you do it?
Like kind of the same answer again, really. I increasingly just try to do whatever I feel like doing. So like I've not done a stream for a couple of weeks now because I had a HackerOne event. And I'm just trying to like not let that bug me at all. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I must get a stream out every week or stick to a schedule. And like those things can be really important for like growth, right? Like if you want your Twitch stream following to grow, having a schedule is good. But I guess the secret, as it were, is I don't really care. Like if people want to listen to me, then great, that's amazing. And if people want to use my tools, that's amazing as well. But regardless of what people think, I'm just going to keep on trying to do the things that I enjoy. And if people want to come along with me for the journey, then that's great, and I really appreciate it. But it's a real conscious effort to sort of go, no, if I don't want to do something right now, I'm not gonna. When I'm at work, that's different. If someone needs something from me, they're paying me to do it. But if I'm at home and I don't want to write a tool or merge a pull request or do a stream, I'm just going to say no. And learning to say no, I think, is one of the hardest things I've had to do in my adult life, or at least learning to say no without feeling guilty.
Yeah, I agree. It's a hard thing to get used to. Well, before I ask you the next question, you said you went to H1702 and you felt like you weren't looking at real hacker things. Aren't you an MVH now?
Oh yeah, I am.
You just won an event not too long ago.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, bring out the belt. Yes.
Here it is.
Yes.
H1 4420 2019 MVH, which, you know, I kind of like, I think about this belt every time I try and every time I get a bit of imposter syndrome. So I just got back from an event in Vancouver where I was teaming with a bunch of people, as some people might have seen. We've been quite loud about it on social media.
Disturbance?
Yeah, disturbance. All caps. Got to be all caps. Right?
Disturbing people?
Yeah, stock made it all caps, and I was like, I quite like lowercase, but okay, we'll roll with it. It's fine. They're a great team. But like, so I did a ton of recon for that event, and because we were sort of divided into sub teams, and I was like quite heavily on the recon side of things.
Yeah.
I didn't really find anything like myself. Like, I got a report in, they decided was informative, but I was like, oh man, like the imposter syndrome starting to creep in. And one of the other team just looked at me and said, dude, you're an MVH. You can chill out now. It's fine.
You've got your belt,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I have to try and remember that. Like it's really easy to forget.
Yeah. Well, I wish I was there to see you get that belt. I'm happy you got one. Well deserved. It's cool to hear, 2 years ago you went to your first event, the way you felt, and here you are 2 years later at MVH. And you're doing really cool stuff. You talked about your stream. What made you want to stream?
I think partly I wanted to stream because I didn't want to write blog posts. That was part of it. So like I've written a few blog posts and I've had quite a few requests to write more, but I obsess over the detail quite a lot. And I bought this mic quite a long time ago with the plan to make YouTube videos, and I tried a few times, but like obsessing over the details stopped me from getting anything out the door. Yep. And I had this with GitHub projects in the past. Like, I had a ton of like tools that were kind of useful, but the code wasn't public or anything like that, because I was like, oh, it's shit. It's not good enough to share, right? And in the GitHub repos, I got around that by making my hacks repo, which just has a big disclaimer on it saying like, this is shit. It's alpha quality tools. If it doesn't work, sorry, but some people might find it useful. And if lots of people find it useful, then I'm gonna maybe I'll put some extra work in and upgrade that to a full project with its own repository. You hit your sub goal. Nice work.
Yeah, I just realized that too. Just did you bring it up. Thank you, everyone. That was insane. Holy shit. Thank you. That was really, really insane.
I was saying, yeah, so like I'd kind of started trying to make a couple of YouTube videos. It turns out video editing's really hard, and really time consuming. So I was like, and I had this plan of answering what I thought was going to be 20 questions and turned out to be 120 questions. And I started trying to make that video a few times and just failed, because every time I said something wrong, I was like, right, stop, cut, re-record that bit over and over and over again. And I realized it was going to take me months to do this thing. So I thought, well, I'll just do a stream, because like the expectation from the audience is quite different. Like, if you stumble over your words or you screw up and get an error or something like that, people are like, hey, it's live, it's fine, that happens. But like, the quality of videos on YouTube from people like Live Overflow is incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I can compete with that by putting in the amount of time that I'm prepared to. But like, the amount of time I need to prepare for a stream is the length of the stream plus a few minutes to upload it to YouTube afterwards, right? And like maybe a little bit of prep beforehand. But even then, like the last stream I did was basically, hi, I haven't prepared anything. I want you to tell me what to make. And then I ended up modifying a couple of tools.
You're doing JavaScript stuff, right?
Yeah, failing at JavaScript. And that is one example where I have gone off and done a bit of deliberate learning afterwards, because I was like, oh, man, I don't know. Promises async can await well enough to debug my own JavaScript. So I went off and did a bit of like deliberate practice on that, but that was a pretty rare example of that happening.
That's awesome, man. I've caught a couple of your streams. I think you were on for like 4 hours doing your question thing. But I definitely understand the video thing, dude. Like, I've been dying to record some of these ideas that I have, and I look at these content that other people produce. I'm like, I can't do that. I don't have the time to produce that quality of the content and editing it. And literally, what you said is the best way to put it. I would say something, and I would in my head go, I sound stupid saying that. After we do it again and again and again, and then you get pissed off and you just can't do it anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I'll post a link to that video in the chat. I think someone asked for it.
Yeah, go ahead and throw it in there. I think someone did. There we go. Thank you, Security.
Oh, saved me a job. Awesome.
Let's talk about some more bug bounty related questions. So usually, before I get to that, do you just use the tools that you have written for your recon, or are there any tools outside of yours that you use on a regular basis?
Like, do I use other people's tools? You mean?
Like, what tools do you use? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, so I use Burp Suite, like basically everyone does, mostly for the recording proxy and the reflected parameters plugin when I'm hunting for reflected XSS. Mm-hmm. But really, like, if it was just the target view, proxy, and search, then I would still pay the money for it, I think, because it's really good. Intruder's really useful as well. Do I use much outside of? I don't use a great deal out, and Repeater as well, actually. Yeah. Definitely Repeater. Couldn't live without it. That stuff's really useful. Command line wise, like, at this stage, it's mostly tools I've written, but I want to point out that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants in a lot of ways. So some of my tools wrap existing tools and standard ones like grep and curl, and like the standard library in Go is vast and really useful, and that enables me to do some useful things without a great deal of code. But I think when I started looking into the things I wanted to do for bug bounty, I found that a lot of the tools, they existed, or the functionality I wanted existed as part of another tool, but it was really hard to integrate them with other things. So, like, it's real common to, and I'm sorry to anyone watching who has a tool that does this. If your tool prints a big ASCII banner at the top that you can't get rid of, then
guilty.
Please don't do that, because I can't pipe it into sort now. Like, I can't pipe the output into anything, and that's kind of the whole point in Unix and the terminal environment, is this idea that you've got small tools that do one thing, do it well, and you can combine them together. And I've often had people raise pull issues and feature requests on my tools to sort of say, oh, can you add this feature? And I'm like, well, no, because you can just pipe it into this tool instead. And why would I duplicate the effort for that?
So don't reinvent the wheel, pretty much.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I mean, I saw you struggling with some of the bad user experience in my tools earlier on in the stream. And things like getting the content length in meg, for example. So that's something I haven't added, because actually it's pretty easy to see. Well, I think there are other ways to do that. So I think I can share my screen and show an example real quick if you'd like.
Let's wait that, because I have a plan for that. Let's wait it out.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's a valid point. I didn't think about that. I have an ASCII thing on one of my tools on Lazy Recon, but that's because I'm piping things through and putting stuff together. But I never thought of it that way. What if somebody wants to use my tool and just pipe it to other stuff? Never thought of it that way, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I had a light bulb switch go off in my head. Valid point. Point taken. Might have to remove that banner now.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like a hacking tool if you haven't got the cool ASCII banner, right?
You have to have that on. Cool. Let's do the I do some fun questions at the end of the streams usually.
Okay.
So the first part of the questions are I ask you a series of questions, just a regular interview that we do, and then at the end of it, I ask you a few words, and I want you to tell me what you think of it. Like what comes
Like a
to your
word
mind.
association sort of a thing.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
But before I get to that, I want to point out something that happened 2 days ago when I reached out to you. We were talking about wordlist, and I don't remember what the conversation was. I said something about a word list. You immediately shared yours without hesitation. Why? Not that it's a bad thing, but I want to know why. Like, why is not a lot of hackers want to do that? As much as I hate to admit it, a lot of hackers don't like to share their word list. They don't like to share their hidden secret sauce, as they call it. Even though we all do the same things, just a little bit different. Why?
Yeah, so I mean, like it extends past the word list as well, for what it's worth. I didn't really realize this until a few months ago that like someone asked me about my secret tools, and I was like, I don't have any. Like literally everything I've written is on GitHub, whether it was finished or not. And like I have a couple of word lists that are sort of like not on GitHub just because I haven't bothered to put them there yet, not because they're secret. I don't know. I guess I don't really feel like it's the tools or the word list that makes me able to do the things that I'm able to do. So, like the bug that I got the MVH for, I can't really disclose too many details about, but I can tell you it was a finding in reconnaissance. And it had been there for 5 years, right? And like the reason I found it wasn't because of my word lists, and it wasn't because of my tooling. It was because of my ability to use that tooling, if that makes sense. Like, a carpenter sharing their planes and rasps doesn't mean that other people can just go and make fine furniture. It's just a tool.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of put the time into learning how to use these things effectively. Someone's asked my word list. I'll post it in a bit. It's like 100 and something lines long. There's hardly anything in it, and it's literally just every time I found a file that I thought looked interesting, like I just added it to the word list. And that was it. It's manually curated sort of a thing. Mostly it's config files and some stuff that's kind of boring by itself, but sometimes gives you an indicator that maybe there's something else interesting there. But like I kind of feel like it's just easier to share than to not share. Yeah. And certainly when I was getting started, I wished other people had shared, and it's sort of a treat other people as you wish to be treated kind of a thing in a lot of ways. But yeah, really, when it comes down to it, the answer is I don't really know. It just feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think collaboration is a very big part of bug bounties, man. Like, if we're not willing to share with each other, I'm not saying share everything with everybody, but if you're not willing to help other people, it's not gonna move anywhere. Like, it's not gonna move forward. It's a big part of the community, I think. That's kind of why I wanted to ask, and I brought this up just like, I love the fact that you shared that immediately with me, even though, that's not what I was fishing for, but you were just like open about it. It's like, yeah, this is what I use. And it's like, oh, cool. Here's what I was trying to use earlier. And it kind of helped. So let's talk about these questions. Before I do that, what do you do besides hacking? Like, I know you hack, you work. What are some hobbies, man? Like, what does Tom do for fun?
This is quite boring. So I write code for fun. Like, I genuinely enjoy it, which I think is it turns out to be quite useful. Right. So like when I was a kid, when people would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I always used to say an inventor. And I think what I was really thinking of was like the guy in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids who makes the machine to shrink things and ends up shrinking his kids. like that was in my mind. That's what an inventor was, and like I wanted to do that. So I
Yeah,
did like electronic engineering at college, and I've always been crazy about robots and electronics,
that's
but
awesome.
computers as well. Um, and in a lot of ways, programming enables me to be an inventor without having to buy lots of components and equipment and that sort of thing. Other than the computer, I can go, I've got an idea, I'm going to try it, and like maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Um, but it lets me be creative in a lot of ways. So like I'm not very good at drawing. The little sheep that sits on my Twitter profile is like the extent of my drawing skill, and but I can write code that makes art, if you can even call it art. I haven't really done much of it, but I find that kind of thing really enjoyable. I've already mentioned like being a parent. That's not really a hobby so much as an obligation. Uh, but I still get enjoyment out of spending time with my kids. Play a lot of Minecraft with my son recently. We're going to be building a PC for his birthday, which is coming up soon.
That's awesome.
What else? In my sort of big burnout period where I didn't do any hacking or programming or anything, I played Forza Horizon 4 a lot.
Nice.
Um, I've got a steering wheel behind me, which I haven't used as much as I should have.
That's cool.
Like for doing a bit. Really enjoy that. I have a lot of sort of things I would have considered hobbies that I haven't done for quite a long time since having kids, because they sort of require a lot of time, or they
Right.
require time during the day as well.
Right.
So like programming, racing games, I can do those when my kids are in bed. But like I quite enjoy working on cars, for example, and I can't do that at night time, not very easily. Like I don't have the space to have a car in my garage, which is where I am right now because it's full of all of this stuff. Um, and I can't make a lot of noise. I can't use an angle grinder in the middle of the night. It doesn't really work. Um, yeah, I like doing bits of electronics and things like that as well, but again, like not so much in recent times. Um, like I made a few like small miniature knives as well. I think I've got one somewhere. Hang on, I'll have a look. Somewhere. Just a minute.
It's all good.
Okay, so it's a little bit damaged because it's just been in a drawer. But like I made like a tiny little tanto
Cool.
sword thing, and made a couple of knives and stuff like that, just to like have a go and see if it was fun and that sort of thing. So
Pretty cool.
making stuff, fixing stuff. Yeah, that's kind of me really, as computers and gadgets and fixing things.
That's awesome.
Tools. I love tools. Just like this whole chest behind me is full of tools, and so like my love of tools extends outside of computers and things and into the mechanical and electrical.
That's awesome. Let's do the interview, and then I'm gonna open up the questions. I have a couple of questions that the chat's sending. I'm gonna make him send it again, anyways.
Okay.
Um, let's get to it. First bug bounty program you ever participated in?
Private.
Oh,
Um,
damn
so
it.
I think I'm going to say who it is actually, because it's my employer,
Oh,
which is kind of how I got into bug bounty programs. I have mentioned it's my employer in the past, and like you can figure out who my employer is with not very much effort. So the program was Skybet. It's currently paused, um, and still private. But yeah, that gave me a really, I think some would say, an unfair advantage. But it really gave me a leg up because it was systems I knew really well. And like, even if I didn't know part of a system, I could go and directly ask people about it. And like that gave me enough of if it wasn't for that, maybe I wouldn't have done so well,
yeah.
and I wouldn't be where I am now. So I am really thankful for that.
It's funny you say that. I am 99% sure when I was on the account management team that I managed that program. That's crazy to think about it. That's cool though. What was your first bug you found? What kind of bug was it?
First bug was an SSRF LFI combined sort of a thing. So
Nice.
it was a PHP file get contents with URL wrappers enabled. And like a little bit more than that even. So I think the code was designed to go and fetch URLs, and it would do get and post, but I could also force it to get files as well. So I read some config files, used it to extract API keys, and called an internal API and said, "Hi, this is really bad." So yeah, that one.
What's your favorite bug type?
I'm gonna go non-traditionally here and go DOM XSS. I like it because I can whitebox it on every website, and I quite like doing like the source code analysis style of things. I have a plan to do a stream at some point on doing looking for DOM XSS using the Chrome developer tools. Which again I will do, but no apologies for it having not happened yet. Like I just really like that by its very nature we get to see all of the JavaScript that gets sent to the browser, right? Like it didn't have to be that way. Like the web was designed by a bunch of academics who didn't really care about copyright. And as a result of that, we get the source code delivered straight to our browser, and we can inspect it and read it and see how it was written. But like it could have been a different way. Like it could have been like a proprietary bytecode thing that was compiled and really difficult to reverse engineer. So I'm just really thankful for that.
Cool, that's awesome. I'm not very good at DOM XSS. I'll be the first to admit, so I'll definitely watch that stream. Just hurry up and do it already. I'm kidding. But no, I'll definitely watch it. It's a good... I'm not really a big fan of source code review, but it's a very good asset to have in your belt. Thank you for the subscription. It's a very cool asset to have, I think. And it's very cool that you're willing to get... I don't know if you get frustrated, but I think I would personally get frustrated reading code and trying to do it on a stream. So it's a pretty cool challenge, I feel like, to have to look at all these codes and trying to figure out what they are doing and then how to exploit them while you're doing all of it live. When we're watching you, there's a little bit of pressure there.
Yeah, definitely. I think something that's probably worth mentioning is I don't know if it's an advantage, counts as an advantage or not, but so professionally I'm a technical trainer. So I spend often like for weeks at a time, all day, every day with my laptop plugged into a big screen, coding and debugging and solving problems with 20 people watching me. So I'm actually pretty used to it at this point.
It became normal to you then at this point because of how much you've done it.
And like the main thing there is just be ready to accept that you'll make mistakes and know how to deal with them calmly.
Yeah, I agree. What was your first bounty?
First bounty was that SSRF LFI thing, and I got $1,000 for that.
Not bad for a first one.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's what got me hooked. That happened, and I don't think I really fully believed I was going to get any money before that, because usually when someone says, "Hey, there's this thing on the internet where you can get money," really like for something that you can do easily, like for me personally anyway, or something you already know how to do, I'm like, yeah, this is a scam, clearly. But because it was my employer, I was like, well, they're definitely going to pay me, but it just seemed kind of surreal. So that got me hooked instantly.
Did you buy anything cool with that first bounty?
So my bounties for the first sort of 6 months or so went all towards my wedding, which was a real extra bit of motivation because it was booked. We had a date, was not yet paid for. Like a significant fraction of my wedding was paid with bounties, which was really nice.
Well, I think that answers my next question of like, what's your best purchase with your bounties?
Oh no, that was noise cancelling headphones. on the way back from my first live event, which was 702. I was like, I'm about to spend 12 hours on a plane or 10 hours on a plane or whatever it was. I just earned I think I'd got like $2,000 or something, which seemed completely amazing to me. And then I was like, oh man, these like Bose Quiet Comfort headphones have always seemed really expensive. And here they are for sale in Vegas Airport. And I'm going to be on a noisy airplane, so I'm going to get some.
Did you buy these ones?
Other ones that you're wearing? Yeah, QC35s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're awesome, man. They're very helpful for flights. But that's just, it's funny that I assume like, oh yeah, he's gonna say his wedding. He's like, no, that's not my wedding.
I don't really consider my wedding a purchase, so
paying for the wedding with your bounties. I mean, the thing is like anything big, like a milestone for me that's been paid through a bug bounty, dude, it's insane. Like thinking about it, like people buying homes, people buying houses. I know people that are retiring their parents.
Yeah, definitely. It's incredible. And I think like it's not a single thing, but for me, just the increase in quality of life that I've been able to have from getting bounties semi-regularly. So I can sort of go, so I bought my wife a MacBook the other day. Or technically I've paid for half of it and she's going to pay me back for the other half. But or we're going to build a gaming PC with my son as well. Like it really enables me to just say yes to that sort of thing, and that makes me feel good.
Do you collaborate with any hackers?
Yeah, I do. So we formed a sort of disturbance team and had a debut in Vancouver for our event for that event. And that's been really fun. There's 9 of us, which is unusual. Like it's a big team. But it means that we've got a real diverse skill set, and really increases the chances of us finding something. I've done several other collaborations before. Spent a bunch of time hacking with Justin Garner, Rhinerator. Done bits in the past with Ed Overflow and a few others. Done bits of hacking with Preben VE, who I miss. He's kind of seems to he's not been into any events for a while. He's a really great guy. I love spending time with and hacking with Preben. Who else? Like loads of people, but I'm definitely up for doing more of it.
Who are some hackers you want to collaborate with that you haven't yet?
So with you, definitely. I think we should do some hacking. I want to hack with Franz Rosen, because who doesn't? Yeah. And also, I've written, I don't know if this is going to sound fanboyish or not. I've written a couple of tools for Franz that he's used, which is real nice. Awesome. It was most he messaged me saying, "Hi, I have an idea for a tool you could write," and I'm like, "Oh, it's Franz. I'm going to write a tool for you."
That's awesome.
Please like me, Franz.
Dude, but this is the thing about Franz. He's such a nice guy. He's such humble and so approachable. Is what I don't you know what I mean? Being at the level of hacker Franz Rosen is, and he's just all around. I don't get it. He's really approachable, and there's nothing scary about that dude. To ask him a question and
no, definitely not.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, but for one reason or another, I've never actually hacked with Franz, because we've always sort of been at an event. We're always already on our own teams or whatever. So maybe at some point, who else? Just loads of people that I would like to hack with. But I think the main requirement for me is they have to be open to share.
Yep.
Because and I'm not going to name any names here, but I've hacked with a few people over the years where they've gone, "Hey, let's hack together," and I'm like, "Yeah, great, that sounds like great fun." And I'm like, "Oh, can you tell me about this thing that you found?" And they're like, "Oh no, I can't tell you." Yeah. I don't want to share my secrets.
Two-way street.
Oh, well, how are we going to collaborate if you can't be open about stuff? And I get sometimes you have an NDA or it was a private program or whatever, but I think the thing about collaboration is that you share, and like you say, it's a two-way street.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to collaborate with you, just to address that. I'm probably gonna hit you up tomorrow, but I love collaborating with people. But I've been very modest, if you want to say, about collaboration. I don't collaborate with a whole lot of folks just because I personally have this rule. If, let's say, tomorrow you and I hack, no matter what we find, I'm splitting it with you. I wouldn't have done, right? But a lot of hackers don't think about it that way. You know, why should I have done that? No, I don't care if you've done it or not. If we are touching something together, even if it means you pointed out something to me, like even if I send somebody a link saying, hey, I found this, like 90% there, and you help me with that 10%, I still am going to give you a big chunk of it. Maybe not 50%, but at least it's going to be 30, 40%, like depending on where I'm at. But most of the time I am doing the split because I think that's only fair. So because of that, I haven't been open to doing any collaboration. I've done with Zayed, trying to beg him to come on the show, but he's such a
collab with Zayed as well, and we went 50-50. Yeah,
he's such
I agree completely.
Yeah, I think that's how it should be, and everything is a 50-50 thing. Like there's no way of expecting me to share my thing with you and you're not willing to do the same. And I feel bad about asking people that I've never worked with to collaborate when they don't feel comfortable sharing, so I just don't do it. Donut is one that I collaborate with once in a while. Him and I have a lot of fun. I wish he was here right now, even though he's at TwitchCon. Zayed, and I think pretty much it. People from Discord hit me up once in a while, but outside of that, I would love to collaborate with you. That'd be really, really fun, I feel like. We could do some really cool stuff.
I'm definitely with you on the 50-50 thing. And like when I teamed with Ryan Narrator at ZLZ at 4420, I said equal split like before I found anything, and then found the 40K thing. I was like, you know what? I said it. I mean it. It's an equal split. And like Justin sent me some of it back, bless him, because he was like, I can't take this much money off you. Wow. I was like, but I said it was going to be equal split before we started, and I really don't want to be that guy who goes, oh well, I didn't mean if it was that much. Yeah. Like, I meant what I said. We were a team. We were sharing recon and information and that sort of thing. So, like, and it could have been the other way around. Like, it could have been one of them finding something and me getting that share. But also, it could have been that maybe we all found things or none of us did. Or maybe like it would have been like a 13K bug. And if I kept it all to myself, that would have been the same thing. And I still would have been really happy about that. Yeah. Like, so... Yeah. Good
for you to stay behind your word, man. That's awesome. I didn't know about that. I knew you teamed up with people. I didn't know if you had to split or you did split. That's really cool of you to do. But that goes into the team spirit, right? I value friendship and that, keeping that friendship alive more than the 20K I'm going to lose. Like, believe me, it's 20K. But at the end of the day, long term, I'm going to make more money collaborating with these hackers. That's going to make up for it. Zayed and I have been collaborating for 5 years, and every single penny we've made together on Airbnb, we split. Doesn't matter how much it was, we split. Because I think he's the same way as I am. I don't think people look at it that way. Some people value money more, but I don't give a shit. I think friendship is more important.
Yeah, definitely.
It's awesome to hear you be the same way, man. That's really, really cool. I respect the shit out of that. I know the whole chat's just giving you #respect right now. That's really cool. Didn't know that. Learn something new every day. Let's do our award thing, and then after this, I want to jump on and have you show us a few things, if you don't mind.
Okay, cool.
Let's start with the words. Doesn't have to be a word answer. Whatever comes into your mind. Short, long, whatever you want to do. Mental health.
Depressed. Difficult as well. Depressed and difficult. That's my answer for that one.
H1.
702.
Then in that case, 702.
Yeah.
That's the next word. 702.
After 702. Amazing.
Bug bounties.
Fun.
Burp.
Sweet.
Oh, that's funny. Yahoo.
NahamSec.
Why me?
Well, you hack on Yahoo every weekend, man. That's.
What's funny is I can't even submit bugs to Yahoo.
All right.
but I enjoy just people who could find bugs on it. Live hacking events.
Collaboration.
Well, the next one was going to be collaboration. So
I keep guessing. Collaboration, friendship.
disturbance.
Changing the game. Stock would
Ooh.
tell me off if I didn't say that.
Speaking of Stoke.
Crazy Swede.
Glenn is what I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's open up the questions for chat really quickly, just because I know people want to ask questions. Chat, any questions for Tom before we move on to the next part of this and do some hacking actually together?
Wow, there's questions.
Whoa! All right, let me read these. Well, why do you ask how do you balance hacking and family time? Let's move on from that. Because I'm fighting with my wife. Oh yeah, believe me.
Yeah, you're fighting with your wife. Buy your wife a MacBook.
When it comes down to JavaScript, since you like Dominic Assist, do you look for ODays in JavaScript libraries or known libraries?
I just look for anything I can find in the JavaScript that's being loaded by the web page I'm looking at right now. So, and I usually try and take like a sync first approach where I can. Or maybe that's the wrong way to put it. So one of the things I do, which I'm going to do the stream about, is I use the dev tools to help me find all of the different event handlers that can take user data as input. And if they happen to be in like in a third-party library, then I'll look at that. It doesn't matter to me what file it's in.
What is a bug class that you don't look for?
Probably XXE, I think.
Really?
No real reason other than that I just some of the programs I spent a lot of time on didn't really have any XML handling at all, so I just never really got into it. So I that's something I should probably start looking for. Yeah.
I asked this kind of, but let's ask it again. Favorite non-tech hobby?
Yeah, and like my answer was mostly tech stuff, right? So like computers and tools and things like that. Non-tech hobby. So I've got a bunch of guitars upstairs. I do try and play occasionally. Never had any like aspirations to be in a band or anything. I'm just like a bedroom player. Never don't really even learn songs all the way through. Just like try and learn the solos, do the fun part. Yeah. And then like just jam in pentatonic over some chords or something for an hour. Like that's my style of guitar playing.
I forgot to ask this question. What's your advice for newcomers?
Advice for newcomers is just start. Like I see a lot of questions around of like, what do I need to do before I start doing bug bounty hunting? And the answer is nothing. You just try and start. Like maybe I guess you do need to understand like what some of the issues are, like what XSS is, for example, or what an IDOR is, or something like that. But my advice is try hard and keep trying, because like this stuff is really hard, and I think that a lot of people have said it, but it doesn't get enough people just saying this is really, really hard, and you might have to try for months before you find something. And like, and the fact that it took me 5 minutes was kind of irrelevant, because I was on a system I already knew very well, and I'd already been a software engineer and an operations engineer for a long time, and all that sort of thing. If you're just starting out, it's going to take ages. And you have to just persevere and keep trying.
What kind of cars do you work on? Apparently you work on cars.
So mostly mine when it's broken. I've got a 2003 naturally aspirated Mini Cooper, which has got a catback stainless manifold and an upgraded intake and a few other bits and pieces on it. Yeah, but it's old and rusty because I live in the UK, so it breaks. And like it lives outside, so it gets wet a lot and makes it hard to work on. And then I have a friend who runs my local hackspace, which is actually a warehouse, and we've got like a couple of two-post lifts. He's working on like an electric car conversion and a bunch of other things. So I haven't been over for a while, but I try and help out with those too.
Someone's asking about your tools. Do you have a specific order you use the tools? We can answer that later if you want to just demo it.
Yeah, well, I'll demo that.
Okay. Do you see information security adapting Golang more?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that actually. So I don't think I can like publicly call out who that was. I've talked to several companies in the InfoSec space who are using Golang for like their main automation and infrastructure as well.
What hacking resources or tools do you feel are worth spending money on? Besides Burp, I
Worth
guess.
spending money on.
Yeah.
So I spent money on Burp Suite because I told myself, so I used the community edition for 702 2017 and said, if I get enough bounties to buy a license, then I will. And I did. So I did. Yeah. Other than that, I think most of the money I've spent goes towards accounts on sites that let me search for things and stuff like that. So I've got like a Pastebin API license and things like that. Places that let me get information I otherwise couldn't, because it's this, in the sort of knowledge is power thing. Otherwise, I use free software entirely. And yeah.
What's your MO for staying organized while doing/learning?
My MO was that?
Yeah, I don't know what that means either. I think.
Oh, like my modus like how I do it. Yeah. So I when I'm hacking, I take notes in a text file of things that I want to pay attention to or come back to, or that I think are important. Otherwise, like I've got my Burp Suite history that I can search because like it just stores all of my requests. Otherwise, like for like it's not that this isn't a recommended way of doing things at all, but like I just do stuff and then I do it again and then I remember it. And if I forget it, then I have to look it up again. So like I have a lot of bookmarks and things I'll search for, but usually I'll just search again. Like I think a pretty efficient Googler out of 10 years working in software engineering.
Yeah, you gotta understand the art of Googling, man. I think that's like most of the day-to-day hacking for me. It's just Googling random stuff that I find.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you handle obscured JavaScript when you come across it? How do you mess with JavaScript messy files?
So I use the beautifier in the Chrome DevTools, and then I use the debugger to help me understand what things actually are, what values they have. So I'll find the bit that I'm kind of interested in, usually through the global listener section or something like that. Set a breakpoint, run the code, see what the values are, and use that to try and figure out what things are. And you can use, there's like a jump to definition thing, which is useful for finding functions that have been renamed to have a single letter or something as well.
What do you think of the future of hacking and where the scene is going? That's a really good question, Ash.
The future of hacking. Yeah. So I think we're going to see more companies having bug bounty programs. I think we're seeing more in the way of automation as well. Like that's been quite a big deal over the last couple of years or so. People have been building their own automation suites for reconnaissance and that sort of thing. And there's companies cropping up like Detectify or AssetNote and that sort of thing that are doing scanning. I think new browser bugs are going to be a thing. So like we saw the portal element sort of appeared in Chrome recently and basically instantly had issues, which is, and like, you know, no, not to like shit on the developers that made that stuff. That's just the way things go with software. Software is the most complicated thing we make as human beings, pretty much. So it's always going to have issues. I think there's like maybe one or two formally verified bits of software in the world that don't have any issues. But one of the things that is kind of interesting is we basically got rid of Internet Explorer now. So I started my career at a point where I had to support IE 6 and sometimes even IE 5.5.
Rough.
And the web stagnated. We didn't get any new features for a decade, pretty much between like 2000-ish and 2010. Like maybe Ajax stuff got a little bit better, but for the most part, we didn't get anything new. And then like Chrome started to get popular with its evergreen release schedule, and suddenly in the last decade we started to get new features. And like now that Internet Explorer is fully gone, they're actually starting to get used as well. So like we've got Canvas and all the other HTML5 stuff. We can get webcam access, and like the portal elements coming out and all this sort of thing. So I think there's going to be a lot of issues in that stuff.
I love this question. I don't know why I didn't ask it. What are some things that you wish you knew before you started bug hunting?
Ooh. I wish I knew about the community before I started. So I wasn't following anyone on Twitter or in like any of the Slacks or anything like that when I first started. So I was quite alone. And as a result, I didn't really know, like, was I doing things right or was I missing out on stuff? Like, I didn't have anything, I wasn't learning anything that I didn't encounter in my own work, if that makes sense. So when I went to, got invited to 702, because, like, unbeknownst, I didn't even really know that the leaderboards existed on HackerOne. The first I knew they existed was that I was on them and got invited to an event because I think I'd had a particularly good quarter. So it was like Q1 2017 or something. I was like in the top 10 on the leaderboard or something, and that got me invited to an event. And then I went and met everyone and started following them on Twitter and joined the Slacks and started talking to people like about this stuff.
What Slack are you talking about?
What's that?
What Slack are you talking about?
So this is probably Bug Bounty Forum. Is the main one, and like I did sign up for Bug Bounty World as well, but I haven't been there for a long time. Does that still exist? But like I met people there, and I saw people asking questions, and some of them I was able to answer, which made me sort of realize, oh, like maybe there's something that I can bring to this community in terms of having like a ton of development and operational experience, even though I've not like been in the hacking and bug bounty world that long. And in exchange, there's stuff that I get to learn from them too.
Do you look for CVEs when you're doing bug bounties? Do you collect CVEs, care about CVEs? What's your take on it?
Like, do I try and find my own things that would be CVEs, or do I like check that there are existing CVEs for a product?
Let's do you check for CVEs when you're approaching a target?
Yeah, like if I see a version number, I'll Google for it and go, are there any known exploits? And usually the answer is no. Yeah. Or sometimes you'll see, there's a CVE and it's like rated badly, but there's no exploit because like the access requirements are actually super specific. Yeah. And like I'll see that a lot where you'll go, oh, this is running a vulnerable version of Apache. And like you look it up and it sort of like, well, yeah, if you're using mod proxy in this particular configuration, then it's vulnerable. And like, but no one is.
Right. What do you hack on, by the way? What kind of gear do you have? Are you a MacBook guy? Or you install Ubuntu?
So I'm on Ubuntu for pretty much everything. I have a MacBook at work, but I don't really like it. My main machine I'm sat in front of right now is a desktop with a reasonable amount of memory, decent graphics card, and the absolute main thing, which is a 43-inch 2160p or 4K screen. And it's
how big?
43.
Holy crap. Is that what you're looking at right now?
Yeah. Hang on. So.
Dang, dude. How's your neck feeling right now? Do you have to do a lot of this?
Yeah, fine. So you can't really get, it's not the most amazing view. And also the picture I'm looking at is really delayed, so I can. Oh, there you go. I think I'm back. Yeah, it's a great screen. I mean, it's a TV, but it's really big. It's high resolution. I can fit a lot of terminals on it. And then when I want to sit back and watch some YouTube videos, I can push my chair back a few feet and put on full screen, and it's real nice.
I was wondering how you have your face so well lit. But it makes sense now with the giant screen in front
That's
of
the
you.
whole screen. I do have a lamp as well that's like reflected off the wall, but yeah, it's mostly like you'll be able to see the change in light if I pull a terminal up over my web browser.
Yeah, it gets dark.
Yeah, absolutely. And then back to the web browser, it gets light again.
Do me a favor, put your hand in front of your camera so it focuses on you again, because it's out of focus. There we go. Here we go. Oh, okay, you're back. Cool. Let's watch you do your magic. I'm really excited. I've actually never done this. I've been wanting to do this in a while, but people show me how they do their own hacking. If you don't mind, let's go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah, sure. Let's find the tab.
Yeah, at the bottom right corner should be 3 stack dots.
Present my entire screen.
Yep.
Chrome would like to share your screen. Share.
Uh-oh. People can see you again. I'm gonna. There we go. Oh yeah, his volume's low. Sorry about that. There we go. All right, let's do it. Yep, we can read that. Okay, that's awesome.
Ah, super. Cool. So, like earlier on in the stream, you were trying to use Meg and a couple of other things, and like I totally get that they are not the easiest things to use without like reading the docs, which I know people don't really do. And like there's a few things that are seemingly limitations, but really they're things I haven't put in because I already knew a different way to do them. So. And just I've got a couple of comments on things generally. So one of which is Assetfinder, which is it's not something I really was intending to put out publicly, but I used it in my video with stock after 4420 H1 4420, and I got loads of people say, "Oh, like can you like put that online because it looks really good?" And I was like, "Well, I can." But like it's not as good as like a mass or something like that. It's just something I was playing with, and I kind of use it because it's relatively fast. So I'm going to use it anyway. And one of the things is without the subs only flag, it will find all sorts of stuff that is probably going to be out of scope. So I might make that the default. So let's just pick on like sports.yahoo.com or something like that. So we'll get some results from that, and we'll use T to put them into a file. So I'll often like just do that in one step and have that in a file called domains. So we've got 112, which is enough for now. So one thing I really want to talk about a little bit is the HTTP probe or HTTP probe, I guess. It can be really slow. And the reason for that is like by its very nature, if you're checking lots of domains which might not have web servers listening on them, but are like online, they might be dropping packets. So like their IP rules or their IP tables rules or the firewall in front of them or whatever is like all packets drop. And that means usually that stuff is going to result in a timeout, right? So if you are having to wait 20 seconds before you really decide that a host is dead and not listening, then that's going to take a lot of time times 100 hosts, right? And these tools like HTTP Probe and Meg as well are all based around limited concurrency. So like you get the C flag on here and you can set that to 100 or something like that. But if you like set it to 1, as soon as you hit a host that's slow, you kind of have to wait, right? And even if your concurrency level is like 20 or 30 or 50 or something like that, if you're waiting for 30 requests to finish, then you're not going to be seeing any output. So that's kind of that's always going to be the limiting factor with tools like this. But let's throw this into like a host's
Is
file
50 the highest you would use for your concurrencies?
50 I tend to reach for with like smallish lists, like up to 1,000 or so. More than that, I'll go a little bit higher. But like this is my home machine on my home connection, which is it's okay. It's around 300 meg or so. So like I can probably go a lot higher if I really needed to. But I've got some other stuff to show you as well. So I've got file domains, I've got file hosts. Let's talk about Meg a little bit. So, like the reason it exists.
Hold on, before we move on, what were the difference between host and do a list again? Yeah, what are the difference between the two?
Oh, okay. So domains is my raw domains that I found, like subdomains and things like that.
Okay.
And then I tend to use a file name of hosts for ones that have got
Probes.
like actual servers and things listing on them, whether that's HTTP or HTTPS.
Okay, awesome.
Like that's just my convention.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of used to it. And Meg uses it as default because of that.
Which makes sense, yeah.
Like, I wrote Meg because I needed it, and then other people started using it. It wasn't a case of like I was planning to release this crazy bug bounty tool. I was like, I wrote this thing, and some other people started using it too. So like the whole idea with Meg is that I could have like some paths that I wanted to search for. So you were looking for like PHP info stuff earlier on, right? So like PHP info.php, info.php, and let's go like test.php as well. And then by default, let's say, so we've got verbose, concurrency level 200. We're going to save like 200 response codes. In fact, let's not do that right now. Let's just do concurrency 200. So the default output here in verbose mode is telling me the files that it put the responses in. And you can see like a lot of these are for not found or whatever. But also, I think looking at this, we're going to be hitting the delays in here too. We're on test.php already, yeah. So one of the things Meg deliberately does is it rate limits itself. So when you look at the help output, you'll see there's this D or delay option, which is the number of milliseconds you should wait between requests to the same host. And by default, that's 5 seconds. So you should never hit the same host more than once every 5 seconds. And that was kind of my original design goal. So sometimes when it's slow, it's because if you've got the same host over and over and over again, like Meg is deliberately not hitting that. And you can change that and tune it if you want to. But there you go. So like the output directory, which is where it saves everything by default, there's going to be a couple of things in here. So one is there's an index file, which has got all the file names in and the URLs in, and it's a bit hard to see because the text size is a bit too big. So like I could grep 200 OK in here, capital OK, and see that there's a few, and I can go straight to those files if I really wanted to. If I was in the right directory, I could. But like more commonly than that, I'll do recursive greps for things like in this directory. And I'll find some things that are sort of in the index, maybe, but I can pull those out easy enough if I needed to. and then I'll find the other files as well, and I'll open those and go and have a look at them. But with something like PHP info, like I'm more likely to go and grep for something that I know will be in the response instead of trusting the 200 OK response header. So I know that there's like a server variables section to the PHP info thing, or it mentions the PHP authors as well. Like, or maybe I will just say, you know what, I'm going to find all of the files and pass them into HTML tool and get the title out of them, and then unique them and look at them that way instead. But one of the things you mentioned was checking the content length. So let's take that as an example instead. So I would ordinarily do something like use find to find all files, and then do an exec of ls.la against those files, and then throw the input into Vim or something like that. And then I can just do like sort by the 5th column numerically, and now they're all in size order.
Wow.
And I can quite quickly sort of go through these and go like, all of these are like 400 and something ish. All of these are 800 and something ish. And like, there's a bit of a step change here. Or if I head down at the bottom, like this one is way bigger than the rest of them, right? It's 31.9K. So probably I'm going to go and look at this file instead and see what this one is. Because it's bigger.
Yeah.
Just because it's different. But this sort of approach of using find and exec and some other filters, I find to be quite useful, because I can I get a lot more flexibility that way. Like I can also do things like I can exec the command file on things, which uses a little bit of magic to figure out like what kind of document is this. So again, if I pipe this into Vim, I can sort of go, so there's a bunch of these that are classed as ASCII text, which means they're probably just going to be the headers, right? But then like this one says it's an HTML document, so I know there's going to be an HTML response. Or sometimes some of them might be images, or they might say XML or something like that, and I can filter things that way too. But I could never get all of these features into a tool, and I feel like I don't really need to, because it's possible to do these kinds of things. What was the other thing I wanted to show? Oh yeah, so like Meg suffers from like that same problem that HTTP probe does a lot, which is if you've got hosts which are like slow or dead, because we're working with a fixed concurrency, like say 50, for example. As soon as we've hit 50 hosts that are going really slow, like we're not making any new requests. And actually that kind of feels like we're wasting time a little bit. So recently I've been playing with another tool, and this one's highly experimental, but it attempts to try and solve that problem by, instead of looking at fixed concurrency, it's looking at the delay between launching a new request. And that means technically the concurrency is unbounded. But in theory, at least, you can kind of avoid some of those problems. So I've codenamed it FFF, which could be the frequently failing fetcher, or maybe it's the let's say the freaking fast fetcher, depending on what kind of a mood I'm in and how well it's but you can use it to do basically the same thing that Meg does. So I'll remove that output directory. So I've got these hosts, and if I went to go fetch them, I can throw them into ff-save, and then set the delay to be like, let's say 0 milliseconds. Let's just go crazy. And also we'll use keep alive too. And like, that should be pretty fast. And then right at the end, you'll get the slow ones appear. So you go fast, 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 and then right at the end, the ones that were a little bit slow. But the output's basically the same as it is for Meg. Except I've split the headers and the body files, which means you can do that sort of this find like exec thing, you can like pull out the headers here, and then do a sort numeric, and like all of the zero length files are just grouped together now. Whereas with Meg, the headers were in the same file, so it was pretty tricky to see which ones were really the same because the header amounts can kind of vary quite wildly. But like one of the things that Meg does is that thing of like I've got lots of paths that I want to use, right? So I have another tool called Comb, and you can do this with a couple of while loops as well, where I can just say, you know what, I have Comb for combine, I guess. So I've got a prefix file, which is going to be my hosts file, and then I've got my suffix file, which is going to be my paths file, and that kind of outputs all of the URLs that Meg would have fetched, and then I can pass that into the FFF-save or whatever, and have that do all the things that I want. And part of the reason I wanted to split out those two concerns was because it makes it modular. Like I can feed anything I want into this tool, including like, what's a good example? So I could take my domains file, for example, and I could pipe it into wayback URLs and then straight into FFF or something like that. And that's going to like go off, fetch URLs for a particular thing from wayback URLs, and then it's going to actually like go and save the responses. And Meg didn't really allow me to do that kind of pipelining and chaining and that kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Interesting. That's really cool. All these tools are all on GitHub?
Yeah, they're all on GitHub. Okay. Some of them are in my hacks repos, especially. So FFF is, again, it's experimental, like really experimental. It doesn't have that much in the way of options. You can set headers. You can change the delay. You can make it save the responses, which it doesn't by default, which actually means you can actually use it in combination with something like awk, let's say. So you can say, I want HTTPS in front of all of my domains, and then I'm going to pipe that into FFF, and then I'll just call this FFF hosts or something like that. And I can set the delay to be like 0 here. So it should run like pretty quickly. So this is equivalent of HTTP probe, but like it was a lot faster. Yeah. And then it does have the response code on the end of it, but I can fix that pretty easily. And there could be an option to not do that as well, which would be, that would work equally well. And I think if I can make this tool work well enough, then I can kind of replace Meg and HTTP probe with just one tool that is more simple.
Yeah,
which would be really nice, because like Meg still has a couple of other tricks up its sleeve to do with like its raw HTTP driver and a couple of other things that are specific to it. But there's no reason that stuff couldn't exist in this too. There was another tool I wanted to mention. I'm trying to remember what it was. Someone asked about it. I think it was my tokenizer thing. So for like generating word lists and stuff like that, like that's something that comes up a lot, right?
Yeah.
So like I can turn these domains into a word list with this talk tool, nice. Which just pulls out all of the words, which is nice.
Wow.
And you can, I think
that's really helpful for directory brute forcing when you have the subdomain name, because it could always be a folder, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, and you can add exceptions to the delimiters as well. So you can say like, actually, I want dashes to be considered part of the word. So these like sendbird CLINet doesn't get split into two things. Or you could throw a dot in there as well, and it would just be the domains in this case. But depending on like what you're using to to do it.
I think
And then
I'm gonna start using token to into my stream because that's really helpful to just again like not having to like having this being in the word list. I think it helps a lot. Awesome stuff.
yeah, and then I'm running an old version of that. Let me just update a tool that I've been messing with recently as well, which is a subdomain brute forcer. For like similar kinds of reasons as well. I think this is one I tweeted about the other day, where I've sort of taken my list of domains, tokenized them into a word list, and now I'm using them to re-brute force, like do a recursive brute force on yahoo.com of all of those domains in a slightly special way that tries to avoid doing too many dead ends. So and while that's running, I'll try and demonstrate what I mean. So sometimes if you run like the host command, for example, on something that doesn't exist, like this, you'll get like an NX domain response. And I think this is something that Franz mentioned, I think on your stream actually. And then I kind of went and wrote a tool around it. But if you take something like this, like there's no response, right?
Yeah.
And the reason there's no response, so you would think, oh, well, that doesn't resolve. But actually, the reason that there's no response there is because there are other names that exist underneath it. So like 3.tomnonon.uk didn't exist, but 1.2.3 did. And you'll see the same sort of like empty response if you request 2.3.tomnonon.uk. And like this is useful information because it means I can do a more efficient recursive DNS brute force by not bothering to recurse on this one, which is NX domain, but I will do like a recurse on the other ones. So like this is, I don't know if this has actually found anything that wasn't already in my list of domains, but we can do a quick check. I should have piped this into a file, which I didn't. So this is our new domains. New domains. And yeah, I thought we only did sports dot, right?
Yeah.
So like there's quite a few in here that weren't in that list. So because this is like d.messenger, d.profiles and that kind of thing. So like a lot of these are new that weren't in our original set. And we can kind of prove that. So all of these ones were ones that weren't in our input data, but they all resolve.
That's awesome. That's how did you get so good at Bash?
Lots of practice is kind of the annoying answer.
It's true.
So like I've been using the Linux command line for more than 10 years.
Wow.
I first used it maybe 15, 16 years ago, maybe even a little bit before that. But then I kind of started to get serious with it about 10 years ago. So I used to run Windows and had like I used Notepad++ to like do my programming and stuff like that. And the company I worked for, we had like a dev server with a bunch of Samba shares on it. So we would just like everyone had a Samba share. And I'd open my code in that. And then I had to work on this project where we just couldn't get Samba to work on this particular server. So I was like, I'll just use Vim. I'll use the command line. It will be okay. And then I was on that project for about a month, and I sort of gradually added more stuff to my Vim config over that month. Finished that project, and then was like, right, oh, thank goodness, I can get back to Notepad++ now. I was like, oh, I don't like this anymore. Like I kind of got used to Vim and the command line enough in a month of doing it, of being forced into it. That I was like, no, it feels like home now.
That's cool. That's very cool. You've done some really cool stuff today, man. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you showing us how to use your tools.
No
problem. Since there is a little bit of time left, I have 10 minutes if I gotta hop off. I'm gonna say quickly say bye to you. Anything else you want to add before we jump off, Tom?
Nothing I can think of other than to say thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
I'm going to reach out to you. We're going to definitely collaborate.
Awesome.
We're going to pop some boxes, hopefully. Outside of that, thank you again so much, man, for joining. This was very, very fun. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. I really
Anytime.
appreciate it. I will talk to you tomorrow, hopefully.
Okay. Talk to you
man.
soon, man.
Take care.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
There it was. Tom Nom Nom. Very cool, dude. That was really, really cool. I had a blast doing that. I think this is it for the day for me. I had a blast doing this. I'll just leave my website up. Nope. God damn it. This was a really blast. This is a long stream. Thank you all for joining. Sorry again, as always, the gear didn't work out as much as I wanted it to. But thank you all for joining me, and thank you for spending your Sunday morning, evening, night with me, hearing me talk about Recon and hacking. I'll be back online on Tuesday doing some more CTFs on Hacker 101 and doing some more hacking. Big thank you to Tom Nom Nom for joining. That was really fun. I'm out for the day. I will see you all on Tuesday, hopefully, if you have the chance to join. And the video for this stream, I have to put it together, edit it a little bit since it broke. But it'll be online next week, so if you want to watch it, it'll be on YouTube. Thanks again. Thank you for everybody who subscribed. Somebody gave a 10 subscriptions earlier. Lynn was the channel that hosted me and gave out 10 subscriptions. I really appreciate you doing that. I don't know if you're around still watching, but thank you so much for doing that. I really, really appreciate it. A big thank you to everyone following and subscribing, donating, whatever else that is. Have a good one. Thank you all. I will talk to you all Tuesday. Peace.